Hi, I'm Jim Stevens with Eureka, Canada, and I'm here to do another tent display or setup video instructions. Today we're going to do one of the BonEcho Tour series. This is the 500, which is a 9x9 sleeping room. There's also a 600, which is a 9x12 sleeping room. So we're going to set up the tent, which comes in a nice duffel, and I've also got the optional footprint, which we'll use as well. After you've chosen your site, relatively flat site as best you can, good drainage, and now you want to do a basic inventory of your parts. If you can do this all at home prior to going on your trip, it's advised, just so you're comfortable with the setup. So inside the package, you're going to have a bag of tent stakes, and in there is where you will find your written instructions and all the stakes and any extra guidelines that might come with the tent. The tent itself will consist of the tent body, the fly sheet, and then a bag of poles. And with this particular model, you're going to have two mainframe poles, one vestibule pole, and then one what I'll call a ridge/fly pole. And you'll see during the setup how it all goes together. What I've done, chosen the site and spread out the optional footprint. The footprint covers the whole tent sleeping area as well as extending into the vestibule, which you'll see. If you don't want to buy the footprint, fine, but we do recommend some kind of ground cover, and it can be a little tar, piece of plastic. The key to remember is that the footprint should be cut slightly smaller than the footprint of the tent, so that it can't catch any rainwater and bring it between the two layers. And secondly, it's advisable to be able to have an extension into your vestibule. And why you want to do that is if the ground is moist, at night you'll actually get a lot of moisture coming up, condensing on the underside of the fly. You may think it's rained during the night, but it hasn't. By putting the extension into the vestibule, you reduce the amount of condensation immeasurably, to be honest with you. It makes such a huge difference. So I've laid down the footprint, and the footprint in the case of this comes with the one end is tapered, and that's going to be your vestibule end, or I'll call it the main door, if you will. So what I've done then with the tent body that I'm laying down is I've found the mesh vestibule, and that's going to be at the main vestibule end, so it'll go towards the tapered end of the footprint. And I'm now just spreading out the tent body, the sleeping room body, so to speak, as best I can. And then we're going to go into adding the frame to it. So. Okay. With the frame, as I have said in all the different videos, the key part in the frame assembly, please ensure the ferrule connections are fully inserted all the way. If you don't do that, you do create a weak spot, potential breakage area. So please, all the way through on your inserts, and then build all your poles. So the poles are assembled. You're going to have two main frames that have the pre-bent elbows that you can see. That's how they're meant to be. So they're not defect. That's how you want them to be. So two of those, which will be the first two poles that we'll use, followed by another pole that's pre-bent. That's the vestibule pole. And then finally, you're going to have the pole that goes as part of the fly or ridge pole. So 4 poles in total. You may also see just a loose section in the frame. Don't be surprised by that. That's just a spare or repair, so that if you had some kind of unfortunate accident, you do have one pole to make field repair. We'll take now the two mainframe poles, the ones with the pre-bent shoulders, and we're just going to work with those. Okay, and I want to be able to set up every tent that we offer by myself. In the case of this tent, you get the two main poles. On the top of the roof of the inner tent are 2 sleeves forming an X pattern. Find one corner of the sleeve, and they're continuous. So it's just a very easy process of sliding the first pole through, balancing it about halfway. Always pushing, don't pull. Again, if you're pulling, you might separate the pole at the ferrule insert. And again, we talked about that earlier, potential damage issues. So now I'm just going to go to the opposite corner here. Find that open sleeve. Push the pole through. So now the frame's in, it's down on ground level, forming the X pattern. Next step, just pick whatever corner you wish to choose. At the corner is the ring and pin, and that pin will be inserted into the base or the hollow end of the pole, like so, and then follow up the seam, and you can attach a couple of the clips to the pole. Then diagonally opposite, so you're working on the same pole. Grab the pole sleeve to create tension, so you're pulling on the pole sleeve. That way it locks the pin at the other end of the pole in place and allows me then to find this corner ring and pin. You'll see two on this portion, and the vestibule pole also attaches here. But now I'm just pushing and maintaining pressure as best I can on the pole, creating my hoop, pin into the base, attach a couple clips. Now I'm going to repeat this on the next pole. Easier with two, but at this point, this is the final, kind of the crucial step in it all. Again, find the end of the pole sleeve and just start pulling it towards you, pushing the pole in the opposite direction. As you can see, the tent wants to stand up and take shape. Keep doing it till it's more or less in the position that it should be. Find the corner ring and pin as we've been talking about on the other corners. Insert to the base of the pole. And now we can clip up all of the clips along the seam and do so on the balance of the tent. The identical process for the larger size BonEcho Tour 600, no difference. So at this point what I'm going to do is finally position the built tent over the footprint, and I'll stake it down in the four corners. Okay, so I put the stakes in the other three corners, and I've got the fourth corner of the tent to do, just getting it positioned over the footprint. So stakes in at about a 45 to 60 degree angle, angling underneath the tent as best you can. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are using the fabric footprint, and you'll have now at the corners of the fabric footprint stretch cords and a brass hook, and they go clip into the ring at the ring and pin system down in the corner. Next, we're taking the other curved pole. This is the vestibule pole. The tent itself is up, staked, and we're locating the sleeve on the mesh vestibule. It's basic like the other poles. It's continuous, so just slide the pole on through till it's about balanced about halfway. Go to the corner, whatever corner you wish to work at. Flex, insert the pin. Couple clips on. Do all three for that matter. And the opposite side, repeat. Okay. And I'm going to grab a couple stakes, and I'm going to stake the vestibule securely in place, stretching it out in conjunction again with the, in this case we've got the optional fabric footprint. We'll have adjustable or ladder lock with the ring system on the fronts of the vestibule, so you can make your fine-tuned adjustments after you've got both of the vestibule poles staked out. And here you've got the, in this case, it's a adjustable ladder lock loop and web for the ground sheet. Just hook it to the hook end of the stake when you're staking it down, and now it's extended full. I'll just finish that on the opposite corner. The tent is up, including the vestibule. It's all staked out in place. So before we put the fly sheet on, we're just going to point out some of the features this model has. All the frame, it's a 6000 series alloy aluminum. Aluminum being lighter, won't rust, and strong. 3 bent shoulders both on the mainframe tent and as well as on the vestibule. It gives you a fairly vertical structure. You're seeing lots of mesh panels in the upper portion of the tent sleeping area, and you'll see in conjunction with what we have on the fly sheet, creates some really good ventilation options. 2 doors, they're both very large side opening or D-side doors, and they also have full mesh windows with fabric covers. And then the attached all mesh vestibule, which in itself has a retractable floor built into the vestibule, allows you to turn it into basically another room option. All of this is done so that you got maximum internal space use coupled with a full all-weather fly system, which we're going into now. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've taken the fly out of the, and stretched it out, and I've matched the vestibule end to the tent end. And the easiest way to do that, if you don't know the unit really well, you'll see a yellow piece of webbing, and that corresponds to this corner webbing on the tent itself. So that's going towards the vestibule end of the tent. So that's what I've done. I moved it up here to the vestibule. Now what I want to do is basically have it laying on the ground upside down so that I can insert the fly rod. What I'm looking for, following the very top seam, are 2 pockets. So I'm going to have one at this end, and one at this end as well. So got the 2 pockets, the final remaining pole, which is just a straight pole, and you can tell it's also got just a smooth off finish. Pucker the pockets and insert. Flex the pole a bit to make the insert here, and then you're going to have two actually tent fly sheet, the Velcro to frame attachments that you want to make, and do so. So now we're ready for the next, and if you're doing it by yourself, the most difficult step, but it's really, none of them are that difficult to do. So taking the frame as you got, if you've got a second person working at the back, but it's just elevating it, and lifting it, and just setting it on top. Grab the fly, the one layer, so that you can now turn it upside down or right side up onto the tent, and just lock it over into position. Straighten the ridge pole, it'll run from the front center to the back center. So let's position it more or less in position over the tent. So we've set the fly on top, but now we have to make the attachments. So what you're looking for, start at one of the corner seams, working your way up. At the top guy line loop, you'll find a piece of Velcro. These are to be secured to the Velcro at the shoulder of the tent, on the pole sleeve. So just set them on and press them in place. Then you can follow down to the second guy line, and that piece of Velcro is just going to wrap around the steel frame of the tent, sorry, aluminum frame. And we're going to repeat that on all 4 legs of the main tent, as well as the same process on the vestibule. On the 4 poles of the sleeping area, I've made all the Velcro to fly sheet attachments. Now I'm just finishing off on the vestibule. And feel free, if you need to, you can step inside the tent, just open the zipper of the vestibule to step in to do this next stage. At the peak, at this guy line location, you will have one more of those Velcro pieces, like so. And that goes over the Velcro right at the peak of the pole sleeve, and make that connection. So, once done, then we want to go and make our final corner fly attachment. So on each corner of the fly, you'll have a stretch cord with a hook, and that goes down and gets hooked into the, again, to the ring and pin on all 4 corners. And then we set up, we've got the fly sheet in place. There's options that you can go with here, but I'm going to now stake out the vestibule separately. You can use the same stake as the tent itself. I like to have it separate so that I can create a bit of a gap between the two fabrics. And then the last pieces of staking out, and these are all important. What you're trying to do here is make sure that you've got your two side locations staked out, the center point back on the rear vestibule staked out. And what that does creates a gap between the waterproof fly fabric and the inner tent, so you can get the cool air coming up underneath and it'll escape out through the vents positioned behind the tent, which we'll talk about momentarily. So I'm just going to stake out the sides and the back. You now have the BonEcho tour is up. The last thing you can do from a stability security issue, if you're expecting some substantial rain, wind conditions, or definitely if you're leaving the site for a period of time, we have all the guy lines pre-attached to your tent. Use them. Undo the ropes, secure them, stake them out from the tent in all locations. That'll add a tremendous amount of stability and security to your tent. What we've also done, however, and these are pre-attached, we made it so it's a simple clip process. So if you wish to, for packing purposes, you can pop those, put them in the stake bag, and just have the this piece with the sliding ring left on the tent. Just might make it easier to set up and down without a lot of strings getting in the way. But they all come pre-attached, ready to go at all four corners and off the vestibule as well. As you can see, it's a full coverage fly sheet all the way around through the vestibule. We've staked it out so we've got good airflow here. To increase airflow, what we've done, these triangular windows in the fly sheet allow you to, in gorgeous fair weather, to roll them up and secure them out of the way. But you can, with an extra guy line, if it's just an all-day drizzle, you can stake it here and stake that out and get some airflow added here. And then, as I mentioned, when the weather's gorgeous, right off in place, and you're all set. Yes, that's my dog helping us out with sound effects. And we also have a high position guy line location here as well. Doggo. Moving forward again, the guy line on this corner, and then again on the vestibule and at the peak of the vestibule. So all the key locations, and when you've got them down, the tent's quite secure. Then for ventilation purposes, you also have a large hoop supported vent on the front with a pop rod and Velcro, and just make the attachment, and that creates again more airflow. The front vestibule has a lot of versatility to it. So what I'm going to show now is the front center panel, which would be where the door is behind on the mesh room. Is accessed through these two vertical zips. Of kind of importance, and it's just the details that go into tents of this quality. Not only does it have the zipper flap, where the zipper flap is sewn into the seam of the fly, it's taped, and beyond that it's got a secondary, what we call gutter, so if perchance a driving rain was coming from an angle that normally wouldn't, the rain gutter here will catch it and deflect water away from your zippers. So the zippers are fully protected from the elements. If you want to use it as more, you're in a sunny site, or it's kind of the weather that's changing on, as we go by the hour, there are two reinforced grommet holes on either corner. With a set of extra poles, you can put the unit out in a bit of an awning format. So, but when the weather is gorgeous, which is when we all are hoping for and planning to use, you can just roll this panel completely up and out of the way and secure in place. then, if you like the weather that much, and it's a gorgeous day, and you still just want, you can disconnect these ones, sides, and similarly, roll them back out of the way, secure in place. Okay, some of the features kind of going inside the BonEcho Tour. Again, applies to both of the two sizes, the 500 and 600. The only difference would be the 600. When you go in, you have an internal room divider curtain that's part of the inner tent setup, so you can separate the tent in half. So we started off with the full mesh vestibule, and the zippers here, as you get into the actual tent, these are the largest you can get. Those are number 10 size sliders, so it's a number 10 zipper used on the vestibule and on the inner tent doors at both ends. They are going to take a lot of use and abuse, but on this tent we just felt so important we didn't want any failure on the zippers. So I'm just going to open that up and access the vestibule. We do it so that the mesh panel of the door of the vestibule, if you're rolling it up, it's going to be high, and that's for a reason. If you happen to be in buggy conditions, you can open it up to whatever level you need, crawl out or crawl in, and it stops the bugs from getting in the tent. If you got a side opening, you're opening the upper portion of it right away, and that does allow bugs to enter. So there is a reason for doing it this way. When we step inside the vestibule, what you're going to see is a full built-in floor. Now this floor is attached to a stretch cord and toggle into the two front corners. It's retractable, and the reason we've made it retractable is for two reasons. One, if you're using it as a wet weather entry, you can peel back the floor, allow the raincoats and the water from them to peel off and go onto the ground, and then put the footprint or the floor of the vestibule back in place. And secondly, you can retract it if you want to use it with lawn chairs, which we're going to show you in a moment. But it's a very simple process. Just go to the corner, pop the toggle through the ring, and pull back the floor of the vestibule. Same on both sides. You can actually tie it back right along the base of the tent if you wish. Sorry about the contrast. We do it with the optional footprint underneath, so the black on black, but you can get the idea as to this would be without a footprint. It would just be ground, grass, whatever the campsite might have laying down. So then we step into the sleeping room of the tent. Again, large number 10 size zips. I've tied back, in the case of both the doors, the breathable fabric curtains. So in colder weather, people like to go now 3-season camping with these big family tents. With those closed, it's just going to trap in more of your body heat for the colder weather, but in the warm weather you can open it up for max ventilation. And in reality, this one here could be opened up and secured out of the way as long as you use this as your bug control. So we have this at both ends. It's the same door configuration, and you can just secure and tie them in place. And as you come into the big tent, the sleeping room, again, this is the 9x9. Very generous center peak height. That's approximate 6'3", I believe, on the 500, and about 6'4" on the 600. 9x9, the heavier weight fabric floor, vertical walls with mesh high up, and you're going to see on both of them I've got the triangular window open on this wall here, but there's the same on the other, so you're with that in conjunction with the mesh on the inner tent, you're getting great airflow. You also have a full pocket organizer on this side wall, plus some smaller pockets down low, and they're great for extra storage of glasses, books, quick items that you just don't want to lose on your floor or have a chance of stepping on. The other thing to note is all the mesh used throughout this tent is a no-seam. That's all we use with our Eureka products. And again, as I've referred in other videos, no-seams can be a real pain, literally. And the no-seams, they just can't penetrate. Obviously, it keeps out mosquitoes and black flies and other flying insects as well. Out the back door, it's just a single-point vestibule. As you see here, and I often refer this one, to be honest, as the foul weather entry. So if it's raining, I can peel that off, have a slight awning extending from the fly rod, step in there, peel off the raincoats, and then come into the tent. And more use this as the fair weather entry, but each person will find out how they want to use it best. You have loops high up in the tent and at the center point of the tent as well. You could hang an LED flashlight here. There's different options that you can do for hanging gear or clotheslines as well. So all in all, lots of room, a very spacious and stable design, and easy to set up. So finally, I'm going to come back into the vestibule and I'll tie up the mesh for the moment. Now what I'm going to do, I'll retract the balance of the floor. And this gives me the wonderful option, excuse me for coming too close, but bring in some chairs. So without having to put them onto the floor of the actual tent or vestibule, they could be sitting on the ground sheet down below or just on the ground. If it happens to be mosquito season, wasp season where you're getting bugged, you can zip down the mesh vestibule in place and enjoy bug-free living. And even if it's raining, you can drop the vestibule a bit further. But this is how the vestibule is meant to be used. Thanks. Hi, I'm Jim Stevens with Eureka, Canada, and I'm here to do another tent display or setup video instructions. Today we're going to do one of the BonEcho Tour series. This is the 500, which is a 9x9 sleeping room. There's also a 600, which is a 9x12 sleeping room. So we're going to set up the tent, which comes in a nice duffel, and I've also got the optional footprint, which we'll use as well. After you've chosen your site, relatively flat site as best you can, good drainage, and now you want to do a basic inventory of your parts. If you can do this all at home prior to going on your trip, it's advised, just so you're comfortable with the setup. So inside the package, you're going to have a bag of tent stakes, and in there is where you will find your written instructions and all the stakes and any extra guidelines that might come with the tent. The tent itself will consist of the tent body, the fly sheet, and then a bag of poles. And with this particular model, you're going to have two mainframe poles, one vestibule pole, and then one what I'll call a ridge/fly pole. And you'll see during the setup how it all goes together. What I've done, chosen the site and spread out the optional footprint. The footprint covers the whole tent sleeping area as well as extending into the vestibule, which you'll see. If you don't want to buy the footprint, fine, but we do recommend some kind of ground cover, and it can be a little tarp, piece of plastic. The key to remember is that the footprint should be cut slightly smaller than the footprint of the tent, so that it can't catch any rainwater and bring it between the two layers. And secondly, it's advisable to be able to have an extension into your vestibule. And why you want to do that is if the ground is moist, at night you'll actually get a lot of moisture coming up, condensing on the underside of the fly. You may think it's rained during the night, but it hasn't. By putting the extension into the vestibule, you reduce the amount of condensation immeasurably, to be honest with you. It makes such a huge difference. So I've laid down the footprint, and the footprint in the case of this comes with the one end is tapered, and that's going to be your vestibule end, or I'll call it the main door, if you will. So what I've done then with the tent body that I'm laying down is I found the mesh vestibule, and that's going to be at the main vestibule end, so it'll go towards the tapered end of the footprint. And I'm now just spreading out the tent body, the sleeping room body, so to speak, as best I can. And then we're going to go into adding the frame to it. So